So in the research paper guidelines, I am looking at those specific guidelines for the assignment, guidelines 1 through 7. I don't think I have to go over guideline number 1, the title page, nor guideline number 2, the abstract. They're pretty self-explanatory. As far as the third guideline goes, the introductory paragraph, fortunately, you already created a rough draft introduction. Now, for the actual paper that you're going to submit, as you know, the introductory paragraph needs to include some kind of quote, statistic, or statement to grab the reader's attention. Now, what do we mean by statistic? Well, a statistic is any numerical information, such as a ratio or a statistic. For example, in the research paper sample, you'll notice that there is a mention of the 95th percentile in relation to obesity. 95th percentile is a statistic. So that's important to include. And again, remember in your introductory paragraph to include on what your paper will specifically focus and the goal in reporting on this information. Hopefully the introductory paragraph in the sample will be quite helpful. As far as the body of the paper goes, it's reminding you to use all of your sources, each source at least once. And it's also reminding you to cite the source. Now, as far as APA citations go, you see some examples there in the research paper. Most APA citations include, in parentheses, the author's name, the author of the source, and the year in which it was published. As far as the concluding paragraph goes, it mentions that you need to include critical thinking. What do we mean by critical thinking? Critical thinking is when you take all the information that you've reported in your syllabus, in your research paper, and you reflect on it and you state why all of this is important to the child and the family. Or you might also include the role of the child and the family. For example, in the research paper sample, you'll notice how towards the end of the paper it mentions the importance of the role of the family in helping a child minimize the effects of obesity or to prevent it. Guideline number 6 mentions the reference list. Again, make sure that your references have been published within the last 10 years and make sure you include at least one book and one journal article. And then number 7, which might be the most important part, that is the format. So for the format of the paper, it needs to be 5 to 6 pages long. Notice how in the sample it is 5 to 6 pages in length, not including the title page or the abstract or the reference list. In fact, minus those, the research paper is only 5 1/3 pages. Otherwise, be aware of APA formatting. Remember to include your running head on the upper left-hand corner, the page number on the upper right-hand corner. Make sure it is double-spaced. Make sure it includes a reference list. Make sure that it includes APA formatted citations. If you have any difficulty with the APA formatted citations, please be sure to contact any of the librarians. They'll be able to help you. And plus, if I'm not mistaken previously, you've learned about APA citations. And that is pretty much it. If anybody has any questions about how to do the research paper or the research paper guidelines or the sample, or even how I'm going to be grading the research paper, please don't hesitate to contact me.